Nora, welcome.
Hello.
Now, before we do start, just have to go over our limit of confidentiality. Everything you say is confidential. It's for your safety and my safety, unless you discuss your harm yourself or someone else, then that does break confidentiality. Or unless you want to reveal anything for yourself, you can.
Thank you.
Okay. Now to start, we had a good first session last time and we went over different things. If you want to go over today, what would you like to talk about?
Well, I had an incident that I didn't bring up last session. So, I'm married and I have 2 kids, one on the way, but closer now. Now I'm closer to 9 months. But I found out everything was going good. My life seemed pretty perfect. But then my husband, I went to turn off his timer one day and I saw a text from my best friend and they were not good. They were too friendly. And so I took screenshots. I kind of like sent them to myself and deleted the messages so I wouldn't saved them on my phone and kind of kept them. And I was trying to figure out what to do with them. How should I address it? And I kind of suppressed it for a while. I didn't know what to do, but I'm really close with both their families. So his parents, her parents. So I decided to take all the screenshots and make a slideshow. And I invited them all over and I showed them. And surprisingly, her parents were really upset. They almost basically disowned her, which she blamed on me and thought it was my fault and I shouldn't have involved them in their business, but it was my business. And then his parents kind of did the same. They've been really supportive, but they just went after him a lot. And so it felt good to have the support from them and kind of like, I guess it was an impulse decision that maybe I shouldn't have done it, or maybe I should have done it in a more like calmer way, but I was kind of happy that I did it in that way. And now the question is, so almost immediately after I filed for divorce, and he kind of wants to work things out. My relationship with her is pretty much done. She's mad at me. And so he wants to work things out. I'm pretty much done. I don't want to, but we have teenagers. And so when he makes me mad, I just kind of want to show them the text and like kind of ruin that relationship, which is difficult. I know I shouldn't, but I'm also pregnant. So the part of that, and the baby is coming soon. I'm closer to 8 weeks now. So I think the question will also come up like, if he's not there for the birth, or should I have him there for the birth? I don't want him there, but I think the kids, they're teenagers, they can kind of see a drift, but I'm kind of like, how much should I share with them? And on days that I feel like extra mad at him, I just want to show them the text. And so that they can understand why I'm feeling the way I am. But I understand that they are kids and that's their dad. And that could really wreck that relationship. So I don't know what to do.
So I understand how there's a lot going on. You feel stressed out. You're trying to manage different situations. What would you say is like your maybe like your primary goal? Like, is it to talk to your kids about what's going on, or is it dealing with your husband or your best friend?
I think the primary goal is the kids, but at points of anger, the goal is to hurt him and to hurt her emotionally, or do something like the way that they hurt me. So I think the goal shifts, but I think ideally it would be to move past it, but doesn't feel like I'm there.
And then would you say, so it's officially over with your husband, and then what did you mention before about the best friend? You said, is that also done, or is it a chance that you might
I
be
think
friends again?
it's done
It's done.
because she's at the point where she's mad at me and feels like I messed up her life, which is hard for me to feel remorse for her knowing what she did, because we were best friends since I was like kindergarten. So it's hard to move past what she did, and also for her to feel like I owe her an apology.
Yeah.
I understand though, maybe I shouldn't have done it in front of her parents.
Yeah.
That might have been a bit intense, but I guess it goes back to like wanting her to hurt the way that I hurt. or feel some sort of like pain or remorse because she didn't feel sorry enough to tell me or anything like that. So I don't know, I guess the goal has shifted. I think for her, the most that I can get from that relationship is just for it to not to bother me and to not want to retaliate, but I don't think I want a friendship.
Yeah. So you mentioned how your best friend is having like an affair with your husband, and she blames you on what's going on. How does that make you feel where it's her fault, but she makes it sound like it's your fault?
I think it's frustrating, and I think that's why I think the relationship is over with her, because I just don't see how she could see it that way. I don't see how she could see herself as like the victim. So it makes me really frustrated at her because we were good friends. Like I shared a lot with her, and now I feel like an ultimate betrayal. And it was like 4 months I saw in the text, so it was a while.
So yes, there's a lot going on and different stuff that might make you upset. What would you say is like maybe like the number one thing that makes you upset?
I think maybe that I didn't see it coming until I saw the evidence. And maybe had I not seen the evidence, I wouldn't believe it, because they're like the part of the two most people that I've trusted. Even so, like I only have one parent left, and he is dying of cancer. He doesn't have very much longer. So I really have relied on them. And now it just feels like all of that support, all of those relationships are just gone. And one is like nothing I can do about my dad, and it's been difficult. And now, like my husband and my best friend, they've kind of sabotaged it for themselves, but it kind of leaves me feeling like hopeless and lonely. So I don't know. I guess that's the most upsetting part.
I see how that can make you upset. It's definitely a lot going on. And for your parent to be dying and you rely on like your husband, but he's actually not fully there for you. It's a lot to go through. Definitely sad to experience. So I feel sorry for that, but I hope we can help you move along and have your kids feel better. Maybe like if you're just yourself, or maybe like a dual, like parenthood or partnership. Have you thought about what's your mindset of like what do you want to do? Like, do you want to have like full custody? Do you want to like have split custody? Have you thought about like what's gonna happen with the kids?
I haven't really thought about it. I think he is a good dad, so I don't think that they would be in danger with him. So I think split custody would be the best, but probably would be something that we would have to go through like the courts for, to just make sure that it's very black and white and not I don't know, like manipulated in any way. So it's just very clear that when he has and when I have him. So I guess I would be okay with split custody, because I'm mad at him, but I do think he parents them well.
Okay. And then you mentioned how like you showed the text to like the family. Now that you've had a while to like think about it, how do you think about how like your mindset affected like your behavior in that action? Like, do you have any regrets, or what is your like final thoughts on what transpired?
I do have some regrets about going about it, because I could see from my ex-best friend Lindsay, I could see from her perspective how like taking away what she did, just me kind of airing all that out for her, and in front of her parents who she's really close with, but now it almost seems like that relationship is over. I don't think I wasn't wanting that response from it. I just kind of wanted them to be held accountable. But I do kind of regret it in the sense now that I see what transpired. I didn't expect for them to cut ties with her and to kind of like isolate her and cut her off. And she was also married. So it's just a lot. It was, I think, a lot of just impulsively I acted, and I was kind of okay with however it affected them. But now looking back, as someone who does care for Lindsay, I do feel bad about the way that her relationships are now. I don't feel bad for what she did, but I do hate that it ruined her relationship with her parents.
To focus on like how your mind affects like your actions. Would you say that you occasionally, or like is it more frequently, like you act in your impulsions, or do you like take a second to like think about like your actions?
I think on everyday things, I'm pretty good at like taking a step back and thinking about it. But when I'm like upset or angry, I kind of lose the ability to think it through and I act more impulsively. So like in that situation, I was just so angry, I didn't really know what to do. And I just kind of acted without thinking. So I think it depends on where I am mentally. If I'm at a good spot, it's like an everyday, I'm okay. But when it's things like that and I'm provoked, I feel the need to just react. Like for whatever reason, just to put something, to say something or do something.
Okay. And we talked about like some sadness. Well, since there was a lot going on, what would you say brings you like joy?
I think my kids.
Your kids. Is there any like certain actions that you all do, or
I think just hanging out with them and like playing with them, watching movies, things like that, that are not really, they don't have a lot to do with anything else. They're just relaxation. I think that brings me a lot of peace with them. And just, it reminds me like how much of a gift they are. And it kind of just eliminates everything from the outside world. So I can just focus on them. So I think my kids are like just doing anything with them is most relaxing to me, I think.
okay. And then prior to the instance of you finding out what happened, how would you describe the family relationship prior?
I would say it was pretty solid. I think that's one of the reasons why it hurt so bad is because I couldn't really see it coming. I felt like everything was going good and he was great and like a great husband, great dad, and I feel like we worked well. He was supportive of the pregnancy, he was supportive with the kids. So it just seemed like out of nowhere, which makes me think like how long would it have gone on afterwards if I didn't find out?
Okay, and then you also mentioned earlier about your dad is about to pass away soon with the cancer. How would you say that affects like your day to day? Like, is it more upsetting than like what transpired with you and your best friend and your husband, or like what would you say is like more like upsetting?
I think maybe that's why I reacted somewhat as I did, because like with my dad, there's not a lot I can do there. So it's upsetting, but it feels like something that I just have to come to terms with. Whereas this situation, it was like I had the ability to do something about it. So it made it a bit more, I think my reaction was bigger for it, but my dad passing is the more upsetting thing.
Okay.
Like I know I'll be okay, but I think my reaction was bigger because it could be. Like I was able, it made, at least I could justify to myself like why I should be so upset. Whereas with my dad, I mean, I can justify why I should be upset, but there's not much I can do about it that will make him live longer or it go away.
I see. That definitely can affect you a lot. I've also had a parent who've had their own medical issues, so I can see where you're coming from. Hopefully that goes a little more smoothly and not too like a long path of like medical history and like a slow death. So hopefully you have some more time to spend with him before he does go away. And then maybe even like with your kids, maybe it'll help them transition from two parent to one parent. So hopefully he can help with maybe any issues that they're having. Which actually makes me think about, have you ever thought about you're in therapy now, but are you going to think about taking your kids to therapy, or are you just going to take like a single approach and just talk to your kids?
I think I will I do see it, I think once I tell them, or however I end up telling them, I'll offer it, but I don't know how receptive they'll be to it. Like, I don't wanna force them to go, but I will definitely make it available for them. Cause I know, like, if it's helpful for me, it'll be helpful for them, or at least it'll give them that out, I would hope it would be. And it would give them a little outlet, like maybe they don't wanna talk to me about it, they can talk to someone else. So I'll give them the option, but I don't know if I'll force it for them.
Okay. And then how would you describe, like your relationship with your kids? Is it open communication? Do they only come to you for like certain instances, or like how much of communication would you say you have like with your children?
I would say they're like 13, 14. So I would say it's still pretty open. They're pretty good about coming to me whenever they have an issue or a problem. There's sometimes I can see them being more reserved, like they're not as open as they were when they were 5 or 7. But I would still say it's pretty open. I would say we're pretty close.
Awesome. So we are about to wrap up soon. We have about less than 4 minutes. So we talked about a lot about how your relationship is with your father and his medical issues, like with his cancer. And then you get talked about your best friend, how she had an affair with your husband, and she also has her own issues, and she blames you. So you talked about a lot today, and we'll continue more next week. How would you say you felt about like today's session?
I felt pretty good about it. I felt good kind of explaining the situation to someone who's not in my like circle in life, who has more of an objective approach to it and wasn't like, I didn't feel judged about it. So I felt good. I felt good to let it out, and I have some tools or things to think about, at least about how to move forward.
Awesome. I'm glad today was a great session, and we could talk more about this next week. But before next week's session, maybe we can talk about how you talk about it to your kids. So maybe like having a plan of the best way to approach it, or you can do it like by yourself, or you and your soon-to-be ex-husband are going to talk together to them about it. But we can talk about a plan about going forward, and what's going to be changing for like their schools, their housing, how they're going to see both of you. So we can talk about planning and all that.
So we do not think that I should just show them the text.
That might be a little bit impulsive.
Yes.
If you want to say it from like your own perspective, and then maybe if you take a second to think about it, so you're not acting like on proportions, and you might get like you might not want a bad full representation of your father, of their father to them. So even though he did make a mistake, maybe not putting all the blame on him, maybe saying maybe it wasn't meant to be, or maybe something happens and we're just gonna split ways. So maybe you want to get maybe some details, not all the details, or how the details happens. So we can talk about how much you want to say and like when you want to say it.
Okay, sounds good. So before our next session, I'll brainstorm some plans on how I think it would be best to tell them.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, and then we can talk about how my relationship with your father is going. And I believe you mentioned either in this session or the first session about how you do have that housing issue. Actually, you're gonna have his house, so you can maybe move into his place, and maybe the kids can help you go to that place with all the moving. So probably my last question is, how soon are you going to like move into like the next place?
I think I'm really lucky that I have a lot of support, both from my soon-to-be ex-in-laws and my dad, that I could move in whenever I want, but I think I'm just waiting on until I tell the kids, and then I'll move in.
Awesome. So great session today. I'm glad we had a good impact, and I hope going forward, when you do have maybe impulsive issues, we can take a step back, think about it, and think about if that's the right thing we want to do, or if you want to maybe like rephrase it or reword it to something different, or do like a different action. But
Awesome.
Great job today. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.